The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
DHS says gun owners are terrorists following Obama's choreographed attack on the Second Amendment earlier this week. The Department of Homeland Security announced it will join the administration, the Justice Department and the FBI in a renewed attack on firearms. Under the guise of preventing what is largely impreventable short of disarming the entire country eliminating active shooter situations, DHS boss Janet Napolitano announced on Wednesday she will work to identify measures that could be taken to reduce the risk of mass casualty shootings, in other words, disarming law-abiding gun owners. The Department of Homeland Security is basically an interior ministry ostensibly created in response to the attacks of September 11, 2001. Although its stated goal is to prepare for, prevent, and respond to domestic emergencies, particularly terrorism, it has, since its creation in October of 2001, pursued its real and unstated objective acting as an internal political police force tasked with undermining and attacking enemies of the ruling elite. DHS, global elite's secret political police. The DHS is not dedicated to preventing future mass casualty shootings, as Napolitano recently stated, but is assigned the critical task of attacking political enemies considered a threat to the globalist status quo. From lurid fictional claims about right-wing extremists, to shepherding a national effort to undermine and destroy an idealistic Occupy movement, the DHS has repeatedly demonstrated that it is a political secret police. The right-wing extremism, current economic and political climate fueling resurgence in radicalization and recruitment document leaked to the alternative media in 2009 set the stage for demonizing gun owners and Second Amendment advocates in addition to a panoply of other political groups derisively tagged as right-wing extremist by the government. The Missouri Information Analysis Center (MIAC) also produced a document in 2009 warning about the danger of a purported modern militia movement, including the likes of Ron Paul, Bob R. and Chuck Baldwin. MIAC and fusion centers around the country coordinated with the DHS to collect, evaluate, analyze, and disseminate information and intelligence on the supposed threat of libertarians and constitutionalists, including Second Amendment advocates. Between 2004 and 2007, the DHS provided $254 million to fusion centers engaged in surveilling Americans considered a terrorist threat by the government. Earlier this year, the DHS released a report, Hotspots of Terrorism and Other Crimes in the United States, 1970 to 2008, that employed the phrase extreme right-wing, ethno-nationalist separatist to describe individuals and groups it claims pose a domestic terrorist threat. Conflating liberty issues with racism is a deliberate attempt to further demonize Americans opposed to the policies of the federal government. Designating opposition as racist is a well-tread path taken by the corporate media and Democrats, particularly since the election of Obama. According to the latest DHS report, the new terrorists in this country are the Americans who love liberty, hate unconstitutional government edicts, and fear the bureaucrats running Washington, D.C., writes Pat Shannon. Second Amendment advocates are at the top of this terrorist list, but a mere pro-life bumper sticker might be enough to make one suspect in the eyes of a dumbed-down cop who forgot his oath. Pentagon joins effort to target pro-Second Amendment movement. More recently, the government enlisted a West Point think tank to produce propaganda detailing the so-called far-right, and warn about white supremacists teaming up with the anti-federalist movement to attack political enemies, the government and most notably the police. The West Point report specifically targets the Patriot movement and constitutionalists opposed to a federal government controlled by an international financial oligarchy. These violence-prone terrorists, the report states, espouse strong convictions regarding the federal government, believing it to be corrupt and tyrannical, with a natural tendency to intrude on individuals' civil and constitutional rights. Finally, they support civil activism, individual freedoms, and self-government. Extremists in the anti-federalist movement direct most of their violence against the federal government and its proxies in law enforcement. Emphasis added. The last sentence in the above underscores the purpose of the report generated by the United States Military Academy demonizing libertarians, constitutionalists, and specifically advocates of the Second Amendment, as violent terrorists, who pose a direct threat to law enforcement. The effort is designed to radicalize the elite's frontline police and first responders, and set them against the far right. Establishment media's orchestrated propaganda campaign. The establishment media's concerted campaign against the Second Amendment has delivered a relentless barrage, a polarizing and divisive propaganda in the wake of the Sandy Hook massacre in December. CBS chief Washington correspondent and anchor of Face the Nation, Bob Schieffer, demonstrated the absurd lengths the establishment will go to trash the Constitution and sow fear and dissension of firearm ownership. Following Obama's speech earlier this week, Schieffer said dismantling the Second Amendment may present a formidable task, but one less daunting than passing civil rights legislation, or defeating Nazi Germany in World War II. Producing a relentless wave of skewed surveys and op-eds in favor of gun control and gun safety, the latest misleading euphemism reveals the urgency of the effort to disarm America and render it helpless. Conclusion: law-abiding gun owners are the target, not terrorists. It is now obvious what is going on in the wake of Sandy Hook. The establishment is finally pulling out the last remaining stops in its long-envisioned disarmament of the American people in accord with its ultimate plan to usher in a one-world government and financial system. A well-armed and educated populace prevents their global elite from realizing this objective. In order to realize this required disarmament, supporters and defenders of not only the Second Amendment but the Constitution at large must be branded as renegade terrorists who threaten police. The cynical propaganda effort to pose law enforcement against a growing liberty movement is key to the elite's effort to impose an authoritarian police state on America, a plan that will not be successful if the American people are allowed to possess firearms more potent than .22 caliber bolt-action rifles.
If there's a blue pill and a red pill, and the blue pill is half the price of the red pill and works just as well, why not pay half price?